Hi, I'm Cole Longcor with K1 News. Recently, at the end of last semester and into the summer break, Kittatinny had its water tested for lead and other contaminants. The test, which was conducted by Agri Labs, took samples from all the water sources in the building. All of the samples in the building tested negative for lead or were below the legal limit, except for one fountain, which is in the back of the main office. This fountain tested positive for 25 parts per billion of lead, the legal limit of which is 15 parts per billion. The Board of Education sent out a letter notifying all the parents, students, and staff of the school about the contamination. To rectify the issue, the water fountain was isolated from the entire water system of the school and is now unable for use. So how much is a part per billion? Well, if a liter of water had 1 part per billion of lead, the whole bottle of water would have approximately 2 atoms of lead. Only 2 atoms. This means that the legal limit of 15 parts per billion is approximately 30 atoms, and that the contaminated fountain had only 15 atoms of lead per liter of water. To learn more about this issue, I will be talking with Superintendent of Kittatinny Regional High School, Mr. Hutchinson. We'll be here with our interview right after this commercial break.
Welcome to the Water Bar. We have tap waters from all across the country. This Portland water comes with an acceptable amount of lead.
Lead?
We also have varieties right at the legal lead limit, like this one from an elementary school sink in Morristown, New Jersey. Let's try this Denver water. It has a few less parts per billion lead in it.
Does it really have lead in it?
Well within what's legally acceptable.
Pure, the only faucet filter certified to reduce lead and over 70 other contaminants. Learn about your water at knowyourwater.com.
Welcome back. I'm Cole Longcor at K1 News, and I will be interviewing Mr. Hutchinson.
Hi, how are you, Cole?
Good. What are the procedures the school has to go through for the testing?
As of last year, there was a new law passed that required each school district to test their water areas for lead and a number of different other water testing options. But what we have to do is we have to identify any potable water where you would drink water, use water for food preparation, or wherever water would be ingested by a student or a staff member. And at that point, once identified, we have to test that water, initially taking an initial sample and then a secondary sample to make sure that their levels of lead are below what is deemed over the limit for lead amount. It's 15 per million parts. So what we have to do is we identified 41 spots within our school where water would be used or ingested. And each of these spots, we had a contractor come in and take a water sample. They took a water sample before a running of the water and then after a running of the water. They keep the water sample to keep it in one single chain of command, and then they send it to a lab for testing. After about a week or so, we get the results back from the lab, and it indicates level of lead within the water. And we did this and submitted it to the state back in June. And out of our 41 spots that we took water, only one was identified as having high lead content.
And how often does the school usually test its water?
We test our water monthly because we're a very small water system at Kittatinny. We have our own well and our own water treatment area. The new regulations say that you have to test annually the lead, but we had been doing it in random spots, usually 8 to 10 per month throughout the school. So this is an annual test that's been added to what we normally do anyway.
Have there been any problems before this test?
Yeah, we had problems in the past, not necessarily with lead, but with some coliform in the well or high mineral content in some of the areas. And what we normally have to do is do a retest of that area. So draw a secondary sample after the water's been drawn from that particular faucet or water fountain. At that point, you send to the lab and you do a retest and see if it's still high. And in most cases, it usually comes back normal or below the regulated levels, and we don't have to do anything. But in the case of the one area that came back this past year, high for lead, I think it was 17 parts, and the level is 15 parts or below. We have to come up with remediation of that water fountain, water spigot, whatever it may be, that had a high lead content level.
And how was this fountain fixed?
Well, at this point in time, it's shut down and it's not fixed. What we have to do is, it's an original fountain in the main office, so it's not used very often. But we will end up probably ripping out, or definitely ripping out, the entire content of the 42-year-old system and putting in a new water fountain, like we have in many areas in the hallways over the past 2 years. So that will be our remediation. And at that point, we'll have to do retesting. And once retesting comes back and it's of an acceptable level, we can open the water fountain back up.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.